Welcome, everybody. This is Kelly Fasterling with eXp Realty, and I am honored today to be with Sterling Cueto. He is just an amazing new realtor that is just taking it by storm. And he's been part of our team for less than a year now. And it is just amazing to watch him launch, engage, jump in with both feet. So, Sterling, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Certainly, certainly. Well, real estate has not always been your thing. It's fairly new to you. Talk to me a bit. You did a little construction, a little insurance. Talk to me about each of those.
Sure. Well, construction was kind of where I started out, I guess, mostly out of high school. It was sort of on and off back then. I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, but my father was a contractor, so it was pretty easy to get in and get going with it. In terms of where I saw myself going with it, it really was just more of a temporary type deal. I didn't see anything too permanent out of it. It was a really good start to kind of make a little extra and, have just a guide into where I'm going to go with life. After that, I went into the insurance business mostly because I already liked cars, and the specific insurance company I picked, Haggerty, they were specialists with classic collector cars and everything else in between. So it was really easy to kind of move from what I was doing into that insurance range. But I also saw more of a future doing that than I actually ended up seeing in real life when I was doing that job. So a few years in it, it was fun. I got to talk cars with people, got to do a lot of really fun stuff and cool stuff, but I had to move away from it, and I didn't know what I wanted to do just yet. Now, I'd always kind of thought about going into real estate and everything else, but I never really had the big push. Well, I got a call from a good friend of mine who, personally, Kelly, that was Tom. And I think you ended up bringing him into the company himself, but he kind of gave me this rundown about insurance, told me if it was something I still wanted to consider seriously, that I should check out the eXp. What do you call that? That one that you run every quarter.
The Wealth Summit.
The Wealth Summit, that's the one. Yeah. So I showed up to that one. I think the first one I did was your second one officially. And I got to see firsthand what real estate really had to offer and kind of get an idea of what would be there for me if I were to proceed with it. So I went through all of the courses. I did everything to get my real estate license, not my insurance licenses, my real estate licenses. And I went to the next few Wealth Summits after that as well. But first one already had sold me. So that's kind of what brought me from construction to insurance and then into real estate.
Yeah, well, and I bet with construction, you got a really good understanding of house building and just the house market a bit, did you not?
I did, yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to the specifics about a house, what breaks down, what to look for and stuff like that. Not as good as my father probably does, but I definitely got a really good introduction into it. It kind of opened my eyes to it, which was definitely nice when moving into into real estate, because it's very similar.
Right. Well, and with insurance, you were probably, even though you were working with Haggerty, were you pretty much running your own business at that point, or were you an employee for them?
No, I was just an employee for them. It would have been nice, and I don't know what's going on with their flow of things, but they seem to think it's better to keep themselves employee based rather than branching off like bigger insurance companies do, so that everybody could own their own office. Personally, I think it's something that they need to start considering, because they've unloaded a lot of really important employees to try to cut back on expenses, but they haven't considered opening those offices yet, which to me just seems kind of odd. I don't know if they'll end up going that way, but right now everything is really just employee based, and then you've got people at the very top that are just managing people down a line.
Yeah. Now, what did Tom say to you that intrigued you about going through the real estate process? Because studying for that exam, that's not trivial.
No.
And getting all of that. What did he say to you that opened your eyes to this as a pretty neat business model?
Yeah, well, first thing is he's always been pretty successful with it. I wouldn't say that he was, the most successful person in the world. It was actually somebody else that I ended up knowing in the through the car range. Really, he ended up having a bunch of cars at a museum that I frequented, but he lives out in California. The guy is extremely successful, had some of the coolest cars I'd ever seen. So that was kind of the first time I ever thought of it as a serious profession, but I never actually went and took the extra steps, taking the classes and getting licensed and everything else. But, Tom, I had spoken with him about it a little bit, just in general, just about real estate and stuff. And he kind of gave me an introduction when probably the first time my parents had ever tried to get a house sold with him. He kind of gave me an idea of what it looked like. So it was kind of back then that I really got the sort of just not the big push, but I got an idea of what it was. And then after that, when I was kind of in that position in life where I didn't know what I wanted to do next, but I knew I had to get away from doing the thing with Haggerty because they weren't going anywhere. That's when he gave me that message. He called me up and told me, "Hey, you got to check this out. If you're seriously still considering real estate, this could be very important for you." And that was kind of like, I almost just took it as a sign. It just made sense. I was looking for something else. Here comes a call from a very close friend of mine who I've known for years. Yeah. And then two and two together, went to the Wealth Summit, and everything after that just made sense.
Well, and you kind of came out of the Wealth Summit. The Wealth Summit was really designed to just give realtor education. We have 6 realtors come in and just share from their heart. And you walked away calling me about eXp because you were committed to coming into eXp, which we really didn't even cover at the Wealth Summit. Talk to me about why eXp, because Tom at that point was not even with eXp. He was with a different brokerage. Talk to me about that process for you.
And I got to tell you, so at first it was really, when I had left the Wealth Summit, it was already in my head that I could see what the potential looked like. I mean, at least from an opening standpoint, I didn't have a lot of experience with real estate professionally yet, but just hearing what those people had gone through themselves, people who had gone through all walks of life, they all ended up in the same place, very successfully, mind you, at eXp, making lots of money or making themselves very successful and giving themselves a lot of extra free time if that's what they wanted as well, while still having that money come in. Jeff Morrell really spoke, I think, to me specifically. He kind of spoke to what his experiences were in life and how he was able to walk away from the industry but still have money coming in because he set up an entire business with the strategy that eXp uses. And now he, of course, takes full advantage of it. So I spoke with Tom about it on the ride back, and then, of course, phone calls after that. And he was at the time with another brokerage, but he was already considering it himself, which to me meant a lot because he was in the industry for 20, 30 years himself. I mean, I met him first when I was, I think, like 6 or 7 years old. And he was a realtor back then. That's how we got to know him. So I knew he was there for a while, and for him to already be considering something like moving to a different brokerage after being with his for so long was obviously something really important. So I wanted to dig deeper. I picked his brain about it, kind of kept in contact, and then I interviewed Jeff, and then me and you spoke personally a few times about it just in general. But afterwards, speaking with Tom and kind of getting him to move forward with going into eXp, it almost kind of ended up me pushing him, which was very interesting. It almost ended up being backwards because it just made sense. There was so many tools and so many things that he could take advantage of. And one of the most important things too is that if you want to be kind of your own realtor, you don't want to work for another company or anything else, there's a lot of overhead. And even with somebody like Tom, who was working with another brokerage that keeps those fees as low as possible, he told me very, very clearly it was already very competitive. It was very low in cost, and there was a lot to offer, the training, the learning, which for me was a big deal because I was just going into the industry for the first time. But even for him, it was a big deal. So I figure, why try and reinvent the wheel, go through the same motions as everybody else, start out at some place that might not work out, like maybe start at KW, which a lot of people would consider one of the better firms and one of the fastest growing ones. Well, then you go to eXp, that one's growing even faster. They have even more resources, and it costs you next to nothing by comparison too. I mean, Jeff was telling me he spent thousands of dollars on their training courses, and eXp offers the same, if not better, courses, and you don't pay anything additional to your monthly fees, which is already huge. And for me, again, being a new realtor, that just made perfect sense to me. So it was it was a little, I guess, a mix, sort of what Tom was going through, knowing that he was experienced and this was a serious consideration for him, as well as seeing everybody else, at the Wealth Summits, speaking to how they've gone through all the walks of life that they've gone through, and then they still end up at eXp becoming even more successful. Why doubt something that works? It's a proven strategy. It was just a no-brainer.
Yeah. Well, then, as you have experience as a new realtor, you get your license. You really do not know how to create your business.
Very true.
Now you're on the path of, okay, how do I start my business? What kind of resources have you found in the eXp model that has helped you figure that out?
Right. Well, I guess some of the most obvious ones. I mean, every single day there's a schedule of new classes that you don't pay $1 for, like I was saying, which you don't find that anywhere else. Even if you wanted to go to conventions and so on, go through DMAR and everything else, the different associations, they're going to charge you for all kinds of different classes. eXp offers them free of charge, and there's new classes every single day, Monday to Friday, scheduled out. And Freedom Team, we've got a class every day here where I'm at, just starting at 9 o'clock. I've taken advantage of a lot of those. Each day's got a specific topic, but it is a different topic and different presenters and so on. Each time you go into a class. So you can always learn something new. And it's just great because you've got people there that you can ask questions. They can teach you about things. So instead of being like a full class, you can get a lot more involved with it. So it's really it's a good open resource to learn all kinds of new things and to take advantage of knowledge that people that have been doing this for years have mastered. So it truly is, in my opinion anyways, very easy to gain that knowledge if you really want to search for it. I've kind of slowed down a little bit on it myself, only because I didn't want to throw myself into the fire too fast and then forget very important things. But as I keep going through my career, I very much intend to keep going to those classes and asking big questions, especially as I gain more and more experience, and hopefully help other agents who are new like myself if they have questions as well in those types of courses.
Right, right. Now, as a new agent, you're also given a mentor for your first 3 transactions and more if you want it.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about that program and that experience with your mentor.
Right. Well, so far, I mean, I actually selected my mentor myself, which you don't have to do, of course. They actually assign one for you. But my mentor, he's Brian. He's very, very good. He's actually kind of new to it as well, which I like because it kind of helps me to understand from a fresh perspective what he did to get started. And it just rubs off, that kind of stuff. And if there is anything else that I want to learn from more experienced realtors, instead of having to pick a mentor, I got all those resources right there, and they're all happy to help. Because the better we do, the better they do, the better the company does. It all kind of works its way around. So I picked myself, but he's been nothing but fantastic. He's helped me. He's answered all of my questions. He's going to help me with those transactions. And, I look forward to working with him in the future, even if he's not my mentor, just to ask questions and get to do different things with him. But no, I've got nothing but good things to say about the mentor program so far.
Good. Good for you. Good for you. Now, you kind of hand selected eXp, hand selected your mentor. You have been an incredible inspiration for me to watch because as a newer agent, you have gone in with both feet. It's been amazing to watch your progress and your involvement, your engagement. But what kinds of things, now that you're kind of 6 months down the road with eXp, what kind of things have you found that would help a new agent in addition to the things we've already talked about?
Yeah, well, I've already gone, through quite a lot of it already. The resources, there's so many I couldn't even remember all of them off the top of my head. But as a new agent, I think what's important to keep in mind is growth potential as you become a more seasoned agent. It's not just for newer agents. So while there's so many resources there that do help you as a newer agent, as you get better, and heck, you could become one of the best in the world, there's still resources here that they could take advantage of and to learn from and to grow their business through. All the time, or the entire time, not even worrying about that overhead, because the entire business model is to keep this in more technology based type company, which the entire world, as we know, is becoming more and more technology based. So this company specifically taking advantage of that entire mindset it's just a very important thing to keep in mind. For new agents, this being a technology-based company is kind of the big one to look for as things start to progress forward, and as different people start kind of straying away from the big offices and going to computers and so on. This is the company to be at. And if you want it to go forward and do better and build a big business, this is the way to do it. You can still have a team without any of the overhead, without any of the liability, and still make just as much, if not more, than you could if you were to try to open your own brokerage through something like KW. Well, not KW, someone like Remax or Caldwell or somebody like that. KW is kind of similar in their own way, but their expenses are still way higher, and they don't even have half of the instruction courses. They don't have half of the mastermind things that we offer, and that's just what everybody anyone in the industry will tell you that's gone from KW to eXp. This one's easily twice the company, and without any of that extra cost. So I think the big resource here is that technology-based mindset that eXp brings, that the CEOs, the founders, and everybody else have really thrived to create an environment that is totally technology-based. They go forward, they keep up with the times. We're growing much faster than any other brokerage in the world, and there's a huge reason why.
Yeah, yeah. Now, eXp is a virtual environment, a virtual office. Tell me how that's worked out for you.
Well, for me, it was actually extremely easy. I mean, the position I had before this, my insurance job, that was all work from home. It was all done from your computer. You meet on Zoom on your computer. Everything that you do is over the phone with your clients. There's really no reason to go into office. Now, that's not to say that the company didn't start in an office. Back in the 80s and 90s, they didn't have computers, but similar to like what you know every other big company is doing, they're moving towards technology. So for me, it was very easy to move into a company like this where you don't have to go into the office, you don't have to worry about all that kind of stuff. But in any case, for me, it was easy. And I think for maybe people that have been doing the office thing for as long as 20, 30, 40 years, it could be a bit of a more challenging transition. But I think if you can foster it and take advantage of those resources, and there's so much to so much you can use to learn how to really take advantage of it in full, so that you're not head over heels trying to, or well, maybe that's the wrong analogy, but you're not upside down trying to figure out what to do with your life or anything like that. While there's nobody there to help you. And a lot of companies can be like that. This one, you've got all the help you need, and you've got everybody there to ask questions to. And they make it so easy and so seamless that it's easy. It's just easy to get a hang of.
What about relationships? Have you created some relationships over the last 6 months, and how has that gone?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, relationships within the company or with clients.
Let's go within the company.
Sure. So, I mean, within the company, yes, of course. And that's easy to do. Again, and this kind of goes back to the first thing I was telling you about, like with the mastermind courses and with the different trainings and stuff. A lot of people show up to those, and there are a lot of reoccurring people, the same types of people. So you can have relationships with all of those types of people, and you can make a lot of friends. And when you get to see the same person like in an office environment every single day, it's really not a lot different than seeing them in a meeting on a computer every single day. And if it's something that you really wanted to go for, it's all there for you. If you wanted to be a shut-in and not see anybody at all for the rest of your life, you could technically do that as well. But if you do want to create those relationships, it's very easy to do.
Well, and you've done an excellent job. You're not very physically close to where I am. You're up in Golden. I'm in Colorado Springs.
Right.
You've come down to multiple wealth summits. You've come to the dinner at my house. You really made a point of it.
And that's another thing that's nice too, is that just because this is a technology based company, it doesn't mean that real life events don't happen, or that even if you wanted to, you could set up an event all day like you do, Kelly. You set up these events, you set up barbecues, you help big time with those wealth summits to get people really together. So even if you never wanted to do anything like that in your entire life, you could set these things up all you wanted to, and people will show up to them. I guarantee you people show up. And if you're not setting one up yourself, keep your eyes open, because there's somebody setting them up out there.
Right.
So yes, absolutely, you can still see those people in person, and even if it's only maybe once a quarter, or whatever else, you still get to meet a lot of people that you will still see every single week, every single day on those meetings and everything else. So you can still have very personal relationships with people and see them in real life. And if you want, you can call up those people individually like you can with anybody else. Have coffees with them, have some drinks with them, do what you want to do. So this is, in my opinion, it makes no sense to have all that extra office stuff when you can have the same type of experiences right here within a company that's totally technology based.
Right, exactly. Well, and you came in as part of the Freedom Team, and you've really engaged into the offerings of the Freedom Team. What were a couple of the more unexpected benefits that you've experienced with the Freedom Team?
Well, it's tough to say, because I kind of I went over them a lot, and the classes that they had every single week and every single morning. Let's see here, a lot of the discounts and stuff, which is kind of just company wide in general. Getting to see everybody like at the barbecues and stuff like that is obviously fantastic. Everybody's there to help you. Everybody there is growing at the exact same time. I mean, they don't really talk about it when you're interviewing the company necessarily, but a lot of the people are trying to learn the exact same thing as you, or trying to take advantage of the company in the exact same way. And everybody on the Freedom Team, in my opinion, is very, very similar minded, at least the people that I've got to speak with and so on. So it's kind of nice to be able to grow with everybody at the same time. So I guess for me, the advantages and the things that I didn't expect would have been, again, some of those classes and stuff that just kind of keep growing and growing and growing and becoming more and more advantageous every single day. But of course, also just that you learn that people are on the same track as you and trying to gain the exact same thing out of the company, out of their own lives and everything else.
Right. Sterling, you're an inspiration to me. It has been fun to watch you grow in this business. Is there anything you want to additionally add before we cut off here?
Well, not in specific. I mean, one of the companies that I would say, even if you were never in real estate, this is one to look at. It's definitely the one that is a company in general that's growing the fastest. We're on lists of some of the best companies in the world, in the state, in the country, you name it. So for anybody out there that's considering, or for anybody who's considering just going to the real estate world altogether, this is the place to start. It's the place to go to. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of great people here, and they're all trying to do the exact same as you. They want to succeed, become better versions of themselves. And all in all, this is just one of those companies. You'll have nothing but good things to say about it once you've joined, especially if you can take advantage of what it has to offer.
Sterling, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us today. And I
Of
look
course.
forward to an amazing year.
I do as well, Kelly. We'll talk soon.
You take care.